everybody. Good morning. Liz, it's nice to see you. Andi, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Good to be here. Nice to see everybody.
Welcome back, Andi.
Thanks for having me. I had so much fun last time. It was great to get the invite to come back again.
So for everybody who's watching, Andi is one of our sponsors for our Women in Mortgage Conference and also one of our speakers. So exciting. And one of the things that happened when we turned off the camera last time Andi and I were talking was that we started talking about masculine and feminine energy and how that impacts business. And so Liz and I decided to bring Andi back so we could have a lovely coffee chat about that. So welcome back, Andi. Will you just quickly tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thanks again for having me. I'm Andi Blackwell. I'm a licensed real estate broker in Oregon and Washington, but I've been doing it for so long that I decided to go into coaching after I was actually invited into the space by some wonderful people. And when I say doing it for a long time in real estate, I've been doing this for about a decade. I'm a third generation real estate agent.
Anything still blows me away.
Anything past 5 years, I joke, is like a geriatric real estate agent because so many people get out of real estate at that point. But what I really do is I specialize in helping real estate agents to cut out the noise of what's going on around them. So we get really tangled up in Shouldville, in the conferences where they parade the successful person on the stage, and we start trying to match that success instead of defining what success looks like for us and living really truly authentic and purpose-driven lives. So that's what I help people to do. I help people set the boundaries and remind us all that we're grown adults with our own lives and we don't need permission to live them in the way that is satisfying.
I love it so much. Every time we talk about what you're doing, I'm like, oh, it's so good. And it's one of the reasons, like what you're talking about is one of the reasons Liz approached me about doing this conference. Like she was tired of the same people being paraded in front of her in the mortgage industry over and over and over again.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And one of the hard parts too is often those people that are paraded, it's excluding to women, it's excluding to minorities. Because they'll go up and they'll tell different stories and they're like, and I made every sacrifice and this is what I did, and you hear the story of what they did. And there was one where I looked at somebody and they had this stricken look on their face, and they're like, yeah, if I went into a neighborhood and did that, I'd probably get shot. There's just so much disparity in how we approach things, and so yeah, I'm not a fan of the big parade on stage.
Yeah, no.
No, and let's just add that the big parade is typically very masculine being paraded. And so that's all we really hear.
And even if it's not masculine, it's still that masculine energy.
Yeah, totally. Because that's how we all learn. That's where we come from. And that's how we're trained when we first come in. So I was a realtor. I started as a realtor. And I would have to say it's equally as masculine as lending. Yeah.
You can always see it in the top, because everybody posts their top 15 boards in their brokerage or their top 10 or their top 5. And I'm at a point where I've been doing this for a really long time, but I still cringe when I see the image of the team and it's like a guy surrounded by like 10 young women. And the optics of it are disconcerting sometimes.
Well, or it's women surrounded by women.
Yeah.
Rarely is it a women surrounded by a male team. I don't see that very often. I'm sure it exists, but I just have not been lucky enough to experience that. So
I actually had that for a while. I had a team that I was running, and I was running a team that had 3 other agents, and they were all men. And we used to joke that it was our reverse Charlie's Angels.
That's awesome. It's not common. It's not common at all.
So when you think about this idea about masculine and feminine energies and how you've seen it play out in the industry, what are the things that are really striking to you when you think about the energy of it? We're not just talking males and females, like we're talking about masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah, I think that so some of it is, well, to be frank,
yes,
when it comes to masculine versus feminine energy, I've always leaned more towards the masculine energy side, which is one of the reasons why it kind of like hit me like a pile of bricks when I started looking into it a little bit more, because it didn't hit me really how much I was still stepping out of what was comfortable for me, though, until I was doing a training and they had this setup where they wanted you to meet the energy of the theoretical client in role play. And I was doing the role play exercise, and the person I was working with was we're just gonna say extremely heightened masculine energy. That sort of person who goes and weight lifts like 2 to 3 hours a day, and you know, just the typical, looked like he could have probably walked out of a Jersey Shore episode. And you know, like I'm meeting and matching the energy, and I can do it. I've been in sales for long enough that I can do it. And after it, the person was kind of like, whoa, you're really good. I want to work with you. And I was just kind of like, this person, it's not that they were going to be a bad person, but immediately I felt the exhaustion. You know what I mean? Like I felt the exhaustion of having to have my energy out of where it needed to be for even that 5 to 10 minute period of time. And then I started thinking about this movie that I'd seen when I was younger. It was a Lifetime movie, one of those like random things that pops in your head though. And they were talking about the quickest way from point A to point B. And everybody who was talking about the masculine energy perspective was, well, it's, you know, the shortest route. And the woman said, no, it's a soft curve. And so thinking about that more and how we get into this bullish mindset of I have to get from point A to point B the quickest that I can. It's going to be the best, best outcome for my clients. But what it really is that soft curve. And I think we're seeing that a lot more in the community over competition calls. A lot of the change in mindset and dynamics of realtor communication, where we're seeing an increase in let's be good co-ops, let's work together for the best outcome for all parties, create a win-win, versus I'm the person who's going to take you down. And it's not that I can't do that, it's just not always the most healthy outcome. And it's not healthy mentally for all of the parties involved either.
So I see this a lot in both real estate and lending, the win or lose mentality. And Missy and I have talked about it. And on a loan officer Facebook group, they had mentioned this great book about assassins being a great sales tool. And I always struggle with this because this is how I was brought into sales. When I was in real estate and I was 21 and I was young, and we used to have FSBO, for sale by owner competitions. We would call them out of the newspaper because I'm old. So that was in the 90s, early 90s. And do not call list, by the way. I also call that at phone books. But you would have a competition and I'm super competitive. And so I fell right into that being my motivator for a lot of years. President's Club. I always had to be there. And that created burnout, and that created a work environment that was maybe a little more aggressive and less kind and harder on staff and meaner people. We're meaner to processors. Realtors are meaner to lenders and escrow officers because you're just pushing, you're pushing constantly. And I'm wondering, how do we go from that being the basic sales model to finding wherever you are on that dial?
So there's a couple of easy calls on that. One is that when you're talking about the win-lose mentality, we have to start remembering that somebody winning doesn't require somebody else to lose necessarily. And that's a hard mindset shift in real estate, especially because it's a mindset that's pervasive everywhere. When we talk about opportunities, we always think of opportunities for, I'm not going to say we, but the general concepts that I hear are, well, if we're creating opportunities for people, then that means that there's not opportunities for other people. We create those false dichotomies. So it's the first step is winning for some person doesn't have to mean losing for somebody else. Mm-hmm. The other thing is we have to disconnect productivity from worth. So one of the things that we see in brokerages, and I believe I see it pretty often in the lending community as well, is if you are in an office that has 25 people in it, then your access to support, your access to like the top people for mentorship is generally connected to your production. So yes. People start to associate, their production numbers with their worth, which is, oh my goodness, I think there's a mosquito. We connect that worth and then we connect it internally. So then
loans are the same. You have a certain amount of production and then they'll supply you a free loan officer, assistant, or processor. Mm-hmm.
And even not even just access to support services like that, but even, I've been at brokerages that have 50 people and I've been at brokerages at 300 people. And what's very interesting is it doesn't seem to matter what size the brokerage is. If you are somebody who is constantly messing up and making trouble, you have their full intention and engagement. If you're somebody who is at the top tier and doing like the top 5 to 10 production in the office, you have their attention. If you're not in those groups, then their focus is just to interact with you to get you to that top tier. So your worth and your value to them is strictly production based. And in a lot of respects, I understand where it comes from. Businesses have to make money. Ironically, in real estate, because of the capping model, it makes less sense to invest highly in the top teams over your middle ground, simply because that top tier, brokerages aren't making any more money from them, really, but they use them as recruiting tools. Look at what our people are doing. Look at how fantastic we are. Right. But for as much as people talk about culture being an important part of, loan companies, real estate companies, you notice they give out production awards, but they don't usually give out culture awards. So what they say they're valuing and what they show they're valuing are two different things. And we need to bring that into alignment.
I think that's such a really incredible point, and something that we're really trying to hit with this conference is this idea of bringing people into alignment with, it's been so interesting watching these headlines about all these people not going back to work, like the most people ever in the United States are just quitting their jobs like crazy because they're like, I can't do this anymore. And the assumptions people are making. I was on a call with someone in England, and she's like, I just got just read this article about how all these women are quitting their jobs and leaving the workforce, and these, good for them that they're not taking any more crap. And I'm like, that's not why they're leaving. Mm-mm. And she's like, well, why are they leaving? And I'm like, because it costs $1,500 a month to put your kid in childcare here. And she was like, what? I was like, that's just one kid, by the way, right? Like, mm-hmm. and it costs, this is the average cost of rent in a major city in the United States. Like, it's $2,000 a month or something like that for a 1-bedroom apartment. And she was like her head could not, the spin that people are leaving because they're empowering themselves is not in alignment with the fact that we have cultures in the workplace in America that are so toxic because because the feminine energy isn't valued.
Well, and something to consider too is the sad thing is it is an form of empowerment, but the only empowerment they have at that moment is I cannot take this anymore. It doesn't make sense for my family. it, nothing that anybody is saying that I've heard is along the lines of, you know, I'm doing this because I'm going to go take over the world in the space that I would like to do. And they're feeling super excited to do that. It's like what you're talking about with the expenses that we have, it doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And the feminine energy not being valued is, it's very interesting how geographical that seems as well.
Yeah.
So, my husband is has been a stay-at-home dad at various points, and he's decided that he wanted to do that again. I mean, he always says that, and then I make him work with me anyway. But but it was interesting looking at different geographies, because we have friends in different areas, and the different support that we get for that from different people, or the lack of support that we get from different people is very interesting to watch. And there was a moment where we were traveling to visit some family in an area, and I looked at my husband, I'm like, I really wish we could afford to live here. And he's like, why is that? I'm like, because I see dads walking their kids to school, and nobody's like looking at them like they're unemployable hacks. And that's the difference in the spin. Like if my husband isn't working, then he's deemed an unemployable hack. If I'm not working, then I'm, you know, embracing my place in the home or something like that. It's just, it's one is more socially acceptable.
Yeah, my husband did it twice in our marriage. Mm-hmm. He stayed home with our youngest when she was an infant. And that's when I discovered he was phenomenal at it, by the way. It makes me look like a total hack, which I am, for the record. And then later on, we were making money and things were fine. And he just ran the house and did a great job. And you're right, the mixed reaction to him doing that, depending on who it was, equally men and women. I had a lot of men, and I'm just going to put this on the record, say that they wish that they had a sugar mama. And I would have to explain to them that meant they actually had to do the dishes, the laundry, the meals. They actually had to show up. It wasn't just like video games and ESPN all day, right? Like, because there is this concept that they want to step into it, but they don't want to step into it. So that it was weird conversations around that. So anyway, I love it. I love having.
So when my husband did step into the workplace for a bit, I think one of the funniest things was my daughter kind of looked at us like, how are we going to eat if daddy's working? Like,
and I've seen that in my kids' eyes too.
and at one other moment we were at a meeting, and they were talking about all the things that moms do in the house, and Ely likes to me, she goes, no, that's what daddy does.
Yeah.
And, but we have a great dynamic that works well for us. And
well, let's embrace that for a moment, right? Like, I am a horrible housekeeper. Missy just came over the other day, and she saw I'm like not cooking anymore. I'm not doing anything that I should. And I think
watch that shit.
Wait, I gotta stop that. Yeah, I was gonna say that I should.
Yeah. Okay. So fair enough. But I've always been that person that would eat out of the pan. I left the wet towels on the bed. I like all of the memes about men you can just about apply to me. Mm-hmm. And vice versa with Matt. Matt was great at all of those things. And I think that we fall into this trap about who should be good at what. We're back to that feminine and masculine thing. And it worked fabulous for us. It was the best thing ever to have him handle it instead of me. So let's just address it out the gate. Some men are just really good at that stuff. And that's probably what they should be doing 24/7.
Yep. And it's funny because we're talking about it in terms of feminine and masculine energy. And even that's probably not appropriate terms for it. But it really is the default for how we describe soft versus aggressive energy.
Yeah, no, he ran a house in a masculine style. It was right. Like, it was more controlled and predictable and planned. I think that's masculine. I don't know, but and that's how he ran the house. It wasn't feminine at all. It wasn't really soft at all, actually.
But I think the thing that is really interesting about this conversation that is that it's how we've been trained to describe the roles that women and men play in the entire world, right? Like, well, not the entire world, but in the world of, you know, the United States of America, this is how things play out, right? And I think that what I love about having this conversation, even though some people are like, what does this have to do with mortgage and like LOs and all that stuff? Like, if we don't start addressing the way we systematically assume women's roles versus men's roles, because one of the things that I've learned since starting planning this conference with you is that in the mortgage industry, you have all these women who are making all this money for these huge companies, like so much, like it's unfathomable the amount of money that happens in real estate and mortgage. Like people don't understand, like people like me that don't work in it, don't comprehend these numbers. And we make assumptions about who is better at making money. Mm-hmm. And yet you have women like both of you who slay in these industries, and the recognition isn't there. You've got all these white men coming up on stage telling women how to make money. And yet, because we build community around things and because we connect differently to people, part of this disruption has to be that we start valuing that equally or more than the way we value the way things are done now.
I agree. It also has to do with the asterisk. So I've been talking about that a lot with one of my agent groups. We have a group called the Wild Women of Real Estate, where we talk about things that are really not wild, but it's like the asterisk where you get called a lady boss, or and I don't even, and it's
masculine. I get called, I'm a dude. I've been told that you're not a woman, you're a dude.
Yep. And it's funny. Well, I mean, it's not funny. It's sad that when people do that, they do mean it as a compliment. And I'm like, I understand what you're trying to tell me, but that doesn't feel like a compliment when you're taking away from a large part of my approach, my existence. It doesn't feel good. I had an experience where I had my business card for my, and we formed our corporation. We'd done like all the due diligence on everything we needed for that new level of our business. And a lender that I've been working with for a long time, took my business card, looked at it like, CEO, look at you, lady boss. And I just went, I think you mean boss. And just like left it at that. But it was, and the sad part was like, he thought that was a compliment, because there's all like the mom boss and the boss babes. And I refuse to read any book that calls me girl. Like, it's just, there's so much of that asterisk. And some people take it on as kind of, and they almost take it on as like a suit of armor, where it's like, I'm going to do this. And I think it's almost because they're taking the approach of, I'm going to put this out there so that you can't use it to weaken me. For me, I just create the delineation of, no, that's not how you're going to talk to me.
Yeah, we don't say man boss or boy boss. Like, hey, boy boss.
We should.
Maybe or dude boss.
I think we should totally start doing that. Let's just start like doing that all the time and be like, oh, look at you, man boss.
Boy boss. Good job.
Boy boss.
No. What are the you have to also make sure that you put it in context of like, you put down the toilet seat. Look at you, dude boss. Because like, that's the context.
Mom boss. Mom boss and dad boss. Oh my God.
Well, and because they're the issue too is they're pulling it out of, it's almost like you don't belong here.
Yeah.
And so like to match that, then it would have to be, hey, you did something not in the sphere that you're supposed to be in. So much of our world is just impaled by supposed to and should. Like, if we could get rid of those two terms, my life would be just lovely.
I call it the shitty shoulds.
The shitty shoulds.
Yeah. Here's a little fun thing for all y'all to do who are watching this video. Take out a piece of paper and write down my shitty shoulds at the top, and list them. Write every should, and then tear it into tiny little pieces of paper and flush it down the toilet, because that's where shit goes. And then stop shoulding on yourself.
I should on myself all the time.
You do. The more we should on ourselves about what we should be doing, the less time we have to actually be here.
Yeah, I love how Liz said should, and both we were both like, wait.
Listen, Missy corrects me constantly. I'm on a constant learning curve. I think I'm living this journey as we go through it, right? As much as I was like, this industry drives me crazy, let's do something about it, I am the epitome of a lot of the things we talk about in a lot of ways. So
that's the best part about doing this. So Andi, thank you so much for joining us today. It's just so great to have these conversations, because I think more people in the real estate and mortgage industries really want to be having these talks. So we really hope that you will invite people to the conference, and definitely. We have a new registration link. I'm so thrilled. We've got the platform is up and running on Hopin. So I'm going to put that link in the comments, and then I'll get it to you, Andi, so you can start inviting your people, because we're really excited that now ticket sales are open and we really get to go balls to the wall. So it's super exciting.
And can you remind everybody when the conference is?
Yes, the conference is on February 10th and 11th, 2022, and it's online on a platform called Hopin. And my favorite part of this whole platform, like, you get to highlight your sponsors, and the speakers have a stage. It's really amazing. But my favorite part about it is the speed networking, because you get thrown into this room and you can like speed network for 3 to 5 minutes and get to know all these random people, because the computer just throws people in. So you're going to meet new people that you have never met before in your whole life. It's amazing.
And our speakers, right? Like that's the coolest part. So it's going to be one-on-one direct questions, things that, you get your questions answered real time, which is really rad. So
yeah. So cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for putting that together and doing this.
Yeah, we're excited. Tell the world. Thanks, Andi.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.